Okay, this is going to be a first in another series, and I'm thinking about changing the name right here before I start. It's called Lies We Believe About God, and I'm thinking about changing it to Lies We Believe for God because it's a little more appropriate. Lies that we believe for God so He can be there. Lives that we have to believe. You know, let's touch on something. Noah's Ark. Now, don't click off real quick and know that I'm fixing to say about animals don't fit and they don't have enough food for them to last and all that stuff. Let's go with after the ark. After the ark, because there are three popular ark stories in this same land. There is Utnapishtim, Ziathura, and Noah. Now, one of them gets a longer life. The other one gets immortality in the Gilgamesh tale. And then Noah gets to become a drunk and yell curses at his grandkids. So, already I think he got the bad end of the stick. But what I'm getting at is that they don't have the option, even with giving people hundreds of years of life, thousands, even up to 1,000 years, Methuselah, they don't have enough people to make what happens. So, there was a big flood and it wiped everything out, smeared everything off the planet, right? But somehow we're led to believe just 3 generations later, when we're at Noah's grandkids after they get out of the boat, that all these cities are there. And everybody just wants to accept that and kind of nod, because you did just agree that the whole boat bullshit. So you're just going to nod your way through that. But, sometimes if you really want to prove truth to things, you just don't want to nod your way through it. And so let's look at that real quick. Um, First of all, one way to show that we're all believing in lies is because the Bible doesn't mention all the races on the planet. It doesn't talk about the Asians, but to fix that, we made them Caucasians. And now whites and Asians kind of come from the same thing because they kind of look white. Well, the Bible actually talks about a red race, a red-skinned race, a white race, and a Persian race. So you get like an Arab. And, I say a regular white race, but so Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Japheth are known to be the northern whites, and then Ham was supposedly the one that made the Egyptians, and there's big debate, and black people are all up in arms saying that that was them and that they created that, and he went all the way down to Ethiopia, but so did the Egyptians, and the Egyptians weren't black. Now they've got DNA stuff, and it's funny, the statues had blue eyes all the time, and when you pulled that wig off of them that was made out of horsetail hair or whatever it was back then, probably a tail off a giraffe or God knows what. But when you pulled that off of them, they actually have brown, blonde hair, auburn hair, and one of the famous pharaohs even has red hair. In fact, they call her Ginger. And so that's one lie that's in the Bible. And another one is too, they don't talk about Eskimos. They don't talk about deep Africa people. They don't talk about island people, which I guess you could say somehow happens after this. But they don't talk about it and how long after this. Because we have them showing up pretty damn quick. But what about South Americans and American Indians that we find that go back to this time? So you can't really have all these people. Here, let's do something stupid mathematically, and we'll just make big round numbers so it's real easy. Um, Oh, wait, before we do that, how do you get two parents to make three different races in the first place? You'd have three hybrids. They'd all be half breeds of whatever the parents were. And so that doesn't make any sense, you know. And if the parents were straight Hebrew, then what are you going to get? You know, are you going to get three different races of people out of that? Well, no. Well, then what was the difference? It was their wives. God didn't say, hey, let's pick all these Hebrews and then all the Goyim around here, let's grab one of each. That's not part of the story, people. So the first idea of how you get three people, he's claiming that all the whitish to tan people are all the same people in the Bible. And that's how another way we know it's a lie. Okay? But let's get past that. Let's go to this number thing I was talking about. So here's the actual bitch slap in this one. If we were to give them, you know, it says one of them has 5 kids, one of them has 4, one of them has whatever. If we were to give them 10 kids apiece, no, let's give them 20 kids apiece. Okay, we're going to give them 20 apiece. Now that's 10 girls, 10 boys, so they have 10 offspringable pairs. Okay, all right, and you have 3 of them, so that means they got 30 kids. Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you take those and you say they all have 20 kids, I know this is a stupid, far-fetched, way blown out number from the Bible. But hell, they lived 1,000 years, and let's just say that they didn't mention all their kids, even though they mention all their kids. But let's say they didn't, and somehow it ended up being 20. Oh, by the way, didn't people die real easy in childbirth back then? But I digress. Let's give them 20 again. So you got 30 kids from the 3, right? 10, 20, 30. You got 30. And you got 10 from here, 10 from here, and 10 from here. And then those groups of 10, let's call it a group of 10 now, all have 20 kids, which are 10 viable pairs again. And they start breeding with each other. Of course, in the Bible, they start inbreeding like crazy, which is not cool. In fact, the Adam story is a inbreeding. In fact, it's a clone inbreeding. He gets cloned in a rib, and then he gets cloned, and then he inbreeds with somebody that's actually him. It's just hard to believe how we come from all this, and that could be the reality of anything. But let's get out of that. So what have we got? We got 30 people, and then we gave them 20 each. So that's 10 viable pairs. So now we're getting it with 300, right? That's math. Okay, so now let's go another generation to the grandkids, and they're going to have 3,000. So there's only 3,000 people in all of right? Okay. But we find now, by digging up in there, that there's about 11 cities so far, and the population of each, they were going at the same time, would have put it at a few million. But let's just go ahead and go with the Bible thing now. They tell them that they've got Kalna and Sippar and all these cities, and they name Babylonian cities. It's because that's where they come from in the first place. But they name these Babylonian cities, and then they go right into Nimrod, and everybody says, oh, well, there's a big gap there. I don't care how big of a gap you get. When you talk about a city's not 30 people. So we got 3,000 people. So if we split them up, we can't make these 4 or 5 cities. I mean, it's going to take, so what we did was we made a city and then we just left it. And it's a whole city for how many people? Thousands of people. But then we left it, made another one, thousands of people made another one. Does that make any sense to anybody listening? Does it really? And then we already know at the same time there's shit going on in Greece, Anatolia, all through. Pyramids are there. They've already been there. They don't have a time of them having to get repopulated, really. What up with that? 5,000 BC, or 5,000 years ago, 3,500 BC, easy. And this flood supposedly only happened, like, I don't know, 2300 BC. If you stretch it as far out as you can, that's as far back as you can stretch the Bible. And then if you stretch that and add up all the years too, it only comes out to 4000 BC. But then the same cities that they name, we find that that city was on top of another city. And we checked that city out, and there's tablets and stuff in there, and the ash layer, not below, but above where we pulled stuff out, gets close to 7,000 years ago from now. So now it predates the whole lineage of the Bible by, 1,500 years or more. But then they find a tablet in there, and that tablet tells a story about a time way, way back. In fact, they say it 2 times in a row like that, like way, way back, man. And what's funny about this, too, is these tablets they find, they kind of got cooked in the fire from getting burned, and it saved this for us so we know about these tablets. Now, the Hebrew people don't have the knowledge of writing on clay and tablets. And this is what we see as the whole heritage of cuneiform coming out of Sumeria. And the towns that they talk about coming from and having built. And then Abraham leaves, right? Okay? So, how could that be a possibility? Oh, by the way, they don't have writing at all either until way after Sinai. They don't have writing of any way. And then whenever they do, it's actually Canaanite Phoenician writing. I've got a thing on it. You can look it up. Look up Yale Exodus, and the lady tell you what it's all about. Click to about 20 minutes in. Yeah. Anyhow, so there's 3,000 people there. Let's say they messed up and missed a generation, and we're going to give them 30,000 people. You got 30,000 now, and you can't even fill up half those towns over here, and there's other places on the planet, and there's other people, and other races. And I don't know how many people are down in Africa, and there's a shitload in Egypt. And I'm betting the population in China and Japan is pretty freaking huge too. They all got a flood myth. It knocked down the numbers to a small amount, but you can't end up with the number of people that we just came up with and end up in the towns. When Abraham goes, just the next generation. So now, we gave him 20 kids, not the number that they say. And it's an impossibility. It's an impossible. 20 times 20 times 20 instead of 4 times 5 times. 4 times 5 is 20. So I've already taken a whole generation time a generation. I'm way above giving them any shadow of a doubt. But we're going to go with 30,000 and give them another, right? And go to 300,000. And you still can't get the number of people that Abraham runs into when he runs in over there. He almost shouldn't be able to run into anybody. Now, if he's leaving behind 30,000 people, he's leaving behind 30,000 people. There is nobody, but he shows up, and there's 100,000 people over here. And then apparently there's a whole lot of people up in Anatolia and north and all the way through Europe. And then there's people down in Africa, and there's people in Egypt. It's just rubbish. It's bullshit. It cannot mathematically. If someone thinks they can show it, put it down in the comments how you could mathematically get the amount of people that are on the planet. Even if you do some multiply times 20 thing, show me your math down there or anything, or not. You just write it out. Just do whatever, but prove me wrong that they should be able to have that many people on the planet and have built that many cities. Whenever it says Cain got kicked out of Eden and he went to the land of Nod, where he took a wife. No one knows where he took a wife from. But then it says, and he knew his wife and he built a city. Cities aren't one house, bud, or one tent. What the hell is he talking about when he built a city? All of a sudden he's like, oh, yeah, in the Bible, they're going to throw a city in there real damn quick because somebody one day is going to find out that This don't add up, even if I give the people 1,000 years. Which, by the way, a true hint to that is they used to do a moon calendar. There's 13 moons roughly in a year. So if you divide that number, like Methuselah's 999 years by 13, then you get him to living about 86 years. And you're like, damn, that was pretty good. He lived that long back then. Yeah, and that's what it really is, regardless of what it says. Prove me wrong in this math, though. I mean, and if anybody knows the real number that's supposed to be there by then, just a generation or so ago, let me know. Let me know. There's a message for you.